Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Mythgard deck guide on channel Duello. For those of you who have been following me from my Turkish channel, I'm pretty sure that you're aware that I'm playing another card game in addition to Gwent. And that game is called Mythgard. In fact, I started playing Mythgard earlier than Gwent. However, it has been downgraded to my secondary card game after I was introduced to Gwent. Mainly due to Mythgard having a player base not as active as Gwent, but I didn't give up on it and been spending an average of 30 to 40 minutes per day. I was thinking about creating a Mythgard content, that features gameplay for a while, and finally I decided to give it a go, because I have been tremendous fun and success with a particular deck. Before starting the deck guide, I'd like to address that this video is meant for players who are already familiar with the Mythgard game, but I'll try to do my best to give additional instructions and tips for my viewers who are interested in learning this game. Let's get started. The deck I want to feature today is a red-yellow aggro deck that likes to go face and finish off the opponent as soon as possible. I use this deck to reach from silver to gold and then gold to possibly mid rank, and I reached an incredible 21 game winning streak divided between silver and gold rank. And in gold rank right now I have a 35 to 5 score and will probably reach mid rank today or tomorrow. So let's observe the deck first. Okay, so here is the deck. As you see, it's a red-yellow deck, and Mythgard features different colors, and you can mix the colors and create 2 or 3, and even if you're brave enough you can create 4 colored decks. Anyway, but the optimum is having a 2 colored deck in my opinion, and red and yellow is actually the traditional aggro color. I mean, when the Mythgard first started, and in different games red is usually the aggressive color anyway, but lately they introduced some aggro cards for yellow as well. And right now, it is a perfect combination. These 2 colors are really great, fast, face-hitting cards. Okay, so the deck is kind of evenly distributed, almost the same number of red and yellow cards. And Mythgard has 2 leader abilities. One of them is a passive one. This one is called Alliance Command Center, which I'll talk about it in a minute. And then we have an active leader ability called Smite. So I'm using these 2 in combination with the deck, and they really suit well with these cards. Okay, so let's get to the details of the set. Before moving there, we should also take a look at the distribution, mana distribution here. As you see, I have 17 one mana cards, so that is a lot actually, and it is kind of risky to run all those low mana cards, because I mean, as the game progresses, you're gonna get screwed if you keep drawing your low end cards. But these leader abilities help you with that. And then we have some 11 to 2 cost cards, 6 and 6. I don't have a 5 mana cost card, so as you see, it's as aggressive as possible. Now let's take a look at the deck card by card. Okay, for 1 cost cards, I have 4 Doper. Let's start with the yellow. Well, this Doper card has a 0 to 2 stats. I mean, attack 0, defense 2. But we have some flexibility options, like each turn you can pump this guy +2, -1. So it could get 2-1. Or you can increase its defense. But you can only do 1 of each for every turn. And you can do it immediately the turn he comes into play. I mean, usually you should pump the defense first, and then the next turn you should pump his offense. And these really help you with longer rounds. And we have some cards to put on him, and this guy can get really big, as introduced in this photo here. And another great 1 cost card here is Thunderbird Egg. This is a bit newer card, and this is actually one of the best 1-drops in the game. Thunderbird is only a 0 to 3 cards, but you need to be patient about this card. Well, as you see, there is this 2 number, and Sunrise -1 at 0 transforms into Thunderbird Ascendant. So you need to wait 2 turns. It means after two turns, it's going to be transformed into this bird, 4/3. So that's a really big stat for this bird. And there is also an additional effect. Awaken, which means, when transformed into this bird, it deals 3 damage to the minion in the opposite lane, which means that the opponent will be hesitant to put a minion on the opposite lane because it could get destroyed, and plus 2 damage to your opponent. So there is that as well. So it will help you with your cause, reducing the opponent's health to 0 as soon as possible. So if the opponent can't answer this guy immediately, and he needs to have a 1 cost card to respond to it, but he's not going to put it in the opposite row, maybe let's say the row next to it. But if he can't do that, this is really a powerful play as a first turn. And there are also some cards that will protect this bird. And let's move to the other 1 cost cards. These are mostly from red. Carny Rioter. It's only a 2/1 stat card, but it deals 1 damage to your opponent even before attacking. So even if it dies, you're gonna get your damage. So again, this is helping you with that cause. Another aggressive card, and you don't care about this if he survives or not. But usually you want him to survive, because if there is an blocker on it, you can always, let's say, ignite that unit and clear the roll for rioter, which means that you're going to deal 3 damage each turn. And then for 1 power, 1 cost slot, we have 4 ignition. Ignition is a spell. It deals 2 damage to a minion or a player. So it is flexible. It's a pretty good card. Control decks use it. Aggro decks use it. I really like it. It's similar to Shock and Magic the Gathering. And I'm sure there are similar cards in almost every traditional CCG. And I have 3 1-cost uncommon cards. Sunken Acolyte. It's another 2/1 stat card. And but if this card breaches, which means that deals damage to the player, not to the minion, it will transform into a 3/2 mana war. So another transformation card. So this card all of a sudden becomes a 3/2, and if this card dies, your opponent discards a card, and that's really a powerful effect in this game. So the opponent will do whatever he can to block this guy, and you should you should try to again clear the defenders, similar to Carny Rider. Those are my 1-cost cards. Let's move to the 2-cost selections here. With 2-cost selections, first I have a defensive-minded unit here, Grid Instructor. The stat is 1/3, so it's not really encouraging to play this actually, but the ability is pretty good. Give another minion 0/1, so it's gonna defend. Give more defense to another unit, and this is not temporary. It's a permanent boost. And with this help, you're gonna make really good trades with your opponent units. This is really helpful, and again, you can use this blue activation cost immediately. The turn Grid Instructor comes into play, and it's a surprise factor, and the opponent was, planning to block your units and kill it, but all of a sudden, you boost one of your minions' defense, and then you kill the defender, and you all of a sudden have 2 units while the opponent has 0. So I think that's a pretty good trade. And I have 3 of those. I don't have 4. And other 2 slot selections. Another new card, Brinebound Believer. This is 2 cost 2/2 stats. Again, not impressive, but the abilities are kind of impressive. Similar to Thunderbird, you need to wait 2 turns. After 2 turns, it's gonna transform into this guy, 4/4. And if you are patient and the opponent can't deal with it and wait 3 more turns, it's gonna turn into this mythic card, 8/7. so it could get bigger. But there are more abilities. For example, if you have 3 mana unspent, you spend it, and this card becomes 4/4. And again, you can make favorable trades and kill one of your opponent minions. But it's still preferable to, transform this guy. And your opponent discards a random card. So that's also an additional effect. So transformation isn't enough, and the opponent suffers the consequences. So the opponent needs to, somehow take care of this in 2 turns. What about Thrall of Trident God? Well, Thrall of Trident God cannot be returned to hand or deck from play. So that's also a pretty good ability. And what about the Mythic card? Well, it has regeneration and cannot take more than 4 damage in combat. And there's this ability. I mean, in addition to attacking, you can discard a card at random. You look at 3 random cards from your opponent's hand, and you may choose one to discard. This never happened, though. I mean, the game is never that long enough, and opponent is, finding ways to deal with this. But I have seen many times that Brinebound Believer was transformed into Thrall of Trident God. So this is a pretty good card. And control decks are running it too, because of the flexibility. And moving on to other 2-cost slots, I have 4 Daring Trapezists. This is from the core set, a classic aggro deck selection. This used to be 2/2, but it's a 2/1, but it's still pretty good because it has, let's say, they have Rush, these 2 ladies. What does Rush mean? Rush means that Trapezists can attack the turn they come to play. So that's a big deal, especially in this deck, so because you need more face damage, and if you don't have a defender, she will hit the opponent immediately. And again, for removing defenders from other cards, you can sacrifice this and kill the opponent's defender and the trapezists, and clear the space for other cards like rioter or acolyte or believer. So those were my 2 selections. Let's move to the 3-cost slot. Another defender type of card in yellow, ayotl vanguard. The stats are pretty good actually, 3/4. And that 4 is really important, especially for trading blows. Well, the awaken ability could be sometimes useful. You may give another minion cannot take more than 2 damage in combat. And this really could help with Thunderbird, because the Thunderbird's defense is 3. And when you use this ability, you can again make a favorable trade, and the Thunderbird stays alive and takes only 2 damage from the opponent's defender. And all of a sudden, again, you have unit advantage on the board. And there is this forge effect. If you burn this card, burn a copy of this card, it will have armor 1. So having armor 1 is really gonna help you in many cases. So it's a pretty good card. And then I have some spells as well, in addition to ignition, such as the vicious cycle. This is a destruction spell, just destroys a minion, no questions asked. But the downside of it is controller draws a card, but you don't care about the opponent drawing a card. In fact, it's actually better for you. But I'm gonna get into that a bit later. And another 3 costs, Yara from Arawaka. This is the mythic card of this deck. I don't think I have another mythic in this deck, so it's cheap. The cost to build this deck is really cheap, because most of them are, bronzes and not bronzes, commons and uncommons. Okay, so what does this girl do? She has agile, which means that, she, let's say, ignores most of the blockers. I'm not gonna get into the detail of it, but the breach ability is amazing, because since she has agile, she will usually hit the opponent. And then you have the option of look at the top 3 cards of opponent's decks. First, you're getting information about what opponent's drawing. Second, choose one to copy without gems in its cost and add it to your hand. So she steals a copy of that card. And then you shuffle everything back. So, if the opponent, is drawing some good cards, it's gonna get sent back. So that's also nice. And if the opponent cannot find the answer to Yara, she becomes unstoppable. and you can actually boost her strength and defense in addition to that with instabeast. And let's get to that as well, because I don't have 3 costs in red. For 4 cost slot, I have instabeast, 4 of them actually, because this card is amazing. Give a minion 4/4. So that's a big deal, especially in the stack, because you have rush minions, you have I have an agile unit. Other than that, you know, have putting instabeast on doper is pretty dope. So instadeep is most of the time a finisher for you. So that's why you need 4 of them. And if you put instabeast on yara, I mean, she becomes really great unless the opponent finds a tall punish. And I have also several 4 powered cards, 2 Wings of Abaddon, another classic aggro card, another one from the core set. This is a 4 cost for 4 damage. It has rush and additional bonus if you can somehow find a minion to sacrifice with 1 cost. It gets immortal. But I mean, I usually don't do that. You just hit face or remove an important threat from your opponent's board with wings. This is a pretty good card, so I highly recommend playing those 2. And I forgot about these because they are in the final slot. And I have 2 trained jaguar. Again, great stats. And this is a multicolored card, red, yellow. And for 2 costs, it's 3/3. The jaguar has swift, which means that he can move. I don't want this video to be a tutorial, but this is a good thing. And lurker. Lurker is also another great ability. So opponent may not attack this unit as much as he wants to. But I mean, I usually use trained jaguar to make favorable trades, because 2 cost 3/3 is pretty good, and again clears the lanes for other units. Other than that, with swift, you know, you can move to a clear lane and attack the opponent. So that's also a bonus. But as you see, I mean, I'm not, let's say, using 3 of them, or I'm not using 4 grid instructors. So I really want to use all of these minions, so that's why I had to make some sacrifices and, you know, reduce the number of units, because having 40 cards is really important. You don't want any cards more than 40, otherwise the deck will be inconsistent. Now let's move to the leader abilities. Well, this is called Path in Mythgard, and you have some passive leader abilities which are called Path, Alliance, Command Center. Well, you have +5 starting life. You really don't care about your life, by the way. But the other abilities is pretty good. You start with... Okay, let's first talk about the sunrise ability. Well, okay, here it is, I'm sorry. If you have fewer cards in hand than your opponent, then spend 3 to draw a card. Which means that for every 3 turns, if you have fewer cards to draw, fewer cards in your hand than your opponent, as you see the deck, you can immediately empty your hand. A lot of 1 cost, 2 cost cards. So usually you will have fewer cards than your opponent. And especially with Vicious Cycle, you can fill the opponent's hands as well. So it's not a guarantee, but let's say for every 3 or 4 turns, you're getting additional cards. So the game rewards you for emptying your hand. Normally, emptying your hand isn't great, because, I mean, after the opponent stabilizes the defenses, and then the opponent will take over and, you know, punish you for playing a lot of cards. But this ability helps you with that cause. And the better you play a lot of units, I mean, the more you play a lot of units, the better for you. But you should pay attention to, obviously, let's say, white punish, like Thunderbolt, Misanthropia, and there are some, you know, massive damage spells. So you got to play around those cards. And there is this ability, add a Mantle of Authority item to your hand every 5 turns. And the Triforge Trooper is a pretty good card. So that's a bonus. If you are on pursuit, you immediately have that card. This is a 1/1 unit with only 1 cost. And that's actually 0 cost if you're on pursuit. And this unit has focused. So it's 1-1, but if the lane is clear, opposite lane, it hits for 2. If it's not clear and there is a unit, it hits for 2 again. So you need to attack your, let's say, opposite row. So a Triforce Trooper is a pretty good card, especially as the first move. You know, you play, for example, Thunderbird Egg and put that Trooper next to it. The opponent cannot play on the opposite row a Thunderbird Egg because there is this risk of getting dealt 3 damage after 2 turns. And when you put that Trooper next to it, the opponent will not want to put the unit opposite to that. So that really creates an awkward situation for the opponent and really creates a lot of opportunity for dealing damage to your opponent for you. And what about the path power here? This is, let's say, active leader abilities. My ability is smite. For 2 mana, you deal 2 damage to your opponent if they have more life than you or 1 otherwise. Well, the opponent usually has less life than you, so I mean, I'm assuming you always deal 1 damage with 2 mana. What's so special about it? Well, sometimes you're missing a couple of damage to finish off your opponent before they stabilize, and Smite really takes care of that. And after a while, you're gonna empty your hand, you will have unspent mana, you know, just hit the Smite button. But you can do it once per turn, don't forget about that. So Smite is a pretty good choice. There are some other choices, but I think Smite really fits great with this theme. Okay, so that's the deck. As I said, I mean, this has been performing phenomenal for me. Right now, the total is 72 wins to 18, although some of them weren't silver, and you know, the opponents you're facing are easier. I have reached let's say, champion rank before a couple of times, so I'm not unfamiliar with this game at all. But right now, I mean, I will probably move to mid rank in a couple of games. But I wanted to shoot this video before doing that to show you how it's going for me. So I highly recommend this deck, and in fact, as you see the board here, the win percentage is phenomenal. Now, I will share a couple of games that I played in the past earlier, and one of the great features of this game is you can check out your history and review one of the games you played in the past. It goes back to 24 days ago. I don't know, I mean, how this works, but I think the limit is something like that, or maybe the number of games, I don't know, but that's a really neat feature. You can see what your opponent's playing and the cards they have in your deck. You can actually copy the deck they use and, you know, paste it to your deck library. That's really convenient. Okay, so let's see a couple of games and let me demonstrate you how the deck works. Okay, first I'm gonna replay my last game that I played on the ladder. So what you do is you just click on that I button, and here comes the game. I'm gonna decrease the speed a bit here. Well, this is my opening hand, and I start the round. Well, you also see the opponent's hand here. So, but I mean, keep that in mind that I don't know the opponent's hand here. Well, as you see, the opponent is kind of playing a Valkyrie themed deck with enchantments, and the leader ability or the path is called Coliseum of Strife. So the opponent will be rewarded when they kill my units. So I gotta be careful about that. Okay, so as you see, I need to play a 1-cost card here. I don't have a red 1-cost card, so I have 2 options here, Thunderbird Egg and Doper. Doper is a pretty good opener, but a Thunderbird Egg is better, so I need to play that first. And the cards that you need to burn is also important, the decisions you make. So you need to plan ahead and think about the following turns. So the next turn, I'm gonna probably burn one of the red cards to play a 2-powered spell. That could be Daring Trapezists or Grit Instructor. So following that turn, I will probably play Ayotl Vanguard, and after that I am planning to play instabeast if I have 2 yellow gems, obviously. So that's the plan. So probably I'm not gonna use Doper. That's why I burnt that card. And playing Thunderbird on the left, on the most left or the right row, is usually a good idea, you know, to decrease the number of defenders defending it. The opponent burns a card. As you see, he doesn't have any one-cost cards. That's normal. And so the one turn pass, so the Thunderbird will transform into a Thunderbird Ascendant. The egg will transform, so that's good for me. So as you see, the decision I made here, I was supposed to play a 2-cost card, but my options are pretty bad. I don't want to play draining trapezists into an empty board, because I really want to make trades with trapezists and kill one of the minions. And again, same thing goes for grid instructor, because you know, I want to add defense to an existing minion that I have on the board. So these are, let's say, surprise cards. You want to keep them in your hand, and that's not the way to do it. That's why, I mean, I prefer to play a 1-cost card here, and you know, I'm not going to use 1 mana, but I think that's worth it. And I pump up defense here. It gets 0-3, so I haven't hit a single damage. So I'm supposed to be playing an aggro card, and turn 2 pass. So good news for my opponent. And this is actually one of the benefits of playing on second while using this path. The first minion that the opponent plays is coming into play bigger. So this is normally a 2-3 card. Now it's a 3-4 card. It's really hard for me to deal with this. Why? He also heals himself when an enemy unit dies. So I need to deal 4 damage to this guy to get rid of it. So not looking great for me so far. But, well, the bird is free and is hatched from its egg and deals 2 damage to it. That's nice. And it's gonna deal 4 damage in addition, because, you know, the opponent, the lane is unguarded. So I'm gonna hit with this and then think about what to do next. I have 3 mana, and I can play the vanguard here. Well, normally you would boost this guy's offense, but it's not going to do anything for me because he's going to die to that. But what I can do is I can increase its defense and let this guy survive for another turn. Who knows, maybe I'll play instabeast in the following turns and, you know, use this guy. Since I had 2 grid instructors, I burned another yellow card, and I'm playing vanguard here away from the Einherjar Thane. So, because I need some empty lanes here. So I only did 6 damage here, but 6 damage is a lot for 1 turn. So staying patient really did good for me, but still this threat is pretty important. So my opponent plays an enchantment and burns a card. What he should do is play the other thing, but for some reason he doesn't. And that's probably gonna cost the game. I really didn't pay attention to that until this moment. So I think that's a misplay. Yeah, he had 2 unspent mana, right? Or am I mistaken? Yeah, he had 2 unspent mana. I don't know why he did that. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, so I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is instabeast for 4 mana. This becomes a 4/8, but as you see, the power isn't enough, so I pump its power and reduce its strength. Now it was a 6/5 and was enough to kill the Thane. All of a sudden, the opponent is at 11 life. Not looking great for him. All the defense stats are 3. Another Thane. That doesn't do much. And just uses the power and heals 1 for 1, but that's really not that great, actually. Well, I pumped the defense here and killed the Thane once again. And it looks like I can finish my opponent here. How? I'm gonna put instabeats here, so it becomes 8. I need 1 more damage, and use the Mantle of Authority, and actually I'm gonna deal 10 damage here because it also gives focus. So as you see, in 4 turns, my opponent is finished off. Although the opponent kind of misplayed, but it wouldn't have mattered too much actually. Let's select another game and analyze that. This one is not gonna be that quick, but I'm gonna demonstrate to you the power of this deck even in long rounds. Long games, not rounds. Okay, now I'm on second. That's why I have Mantle of Authority in my hand, and opponent doesn't play anything. And you can actually look at the cards that are burning from this here, and you see that the opponent isn't playing an aggressive deck. I immediately start with the bird deck again and put Mantle of Authority next to it, Triforce Trooper that comes from Authority. This is a pretty good lineup here. And the opponent puts this. Again, this is a misplay, in my opinion. Demise draw a card. Okay, that's nice. But the opponent should have put it here. I don't know what he was planning. Maybe trying to block this in the next turn. But this one has focus. Maybe he didn't pay attention to that, because since it has focus, it's going to kill this. So this will become 2-1 and 1-2. It's going to kill this. The opponent will draw a card. I don't care about that. And what about my options here, by the way? Because as you see, I have a lot of one-powered spells here. So this is kind of different from the previous game that I showed. So instead of having 3-cost spells, I have a lot of 1-cost spells or cards. What I'm doing is, because I cannot play 2 red spells, because I used 1 yellow gem. So what I can do is play a 2-cost jaguar here, or maybe play one of the red cards and do nothing. I wanted to use my costs, use the mana efficiently. That's why I traded with that bird. And the thunderbird egg will deal 2 damage next turn. And this jaguar, I put it in the middle so that I can I can extend my reach with that. But the card that opponent played is kind of a nightmare for me, Plague Maidens. This card was recently changed. Now it gives another million blight 1, and they can do it once per turn. So this is kind of a mini Zolia. Zolia is a mythic card, and there's also the demise option. That's not that important, but the blight is really a big deal. So the opponent gave blight to Thunderbird Descendant. Blight means that the stats will be reduced by 1 each turn until it dies, and there is no recovering from that. So the clock is ticking for this bird. So that's why this was turned to 3-2, and it's gonna die in 2 turns. Well, the jaguar can move to these slots, but the jaguar cannot move 2 slots. So that's how Swift works. So I cannot hit Plague Maidens. But I can move and then attack, and I'm trying to get close to the maidens. I have to kill that immediately. Okay, the deck is supposed to hit face all the time, but I also need to play about defense and removing threats. That's why I put this here, Carny Rioter. If the opponent doesn't do anything to it, you know, well, actually, this is just a threat. Yeah, I mean, the opponent can give blight only to 1 minion, so I put 5 minions here, and all of a sudden I have 2 cards and 5 minions on the board. And the opponent could be playing Misanthropy, but for Misanthropy, the opponent needs 5 mana. So I still have some turns to deal as much damage as possible, and then probably burn my opponent with remaining spells and rush spells. So that's why I played these. Let's say I shouldn't hesitate and play as aggressive as possible in this scenario. I did this 0-3 thing again, and if this thing goes through, it's going to transform. The opponent moved here and played an enchantment. This is again a bad news for me. Awakening gain 3 life, so gaining life sucks for me, because I want to kill the opponent as soon as possible, and that gaining life and draining is really bad. When you gain life, occupying minion gets 0/1 per life gained, and Sunrise, if occupying minion has more than 9 health, it gets 1/0 and overrun. So since the opponent gained life and there was a creature on it, all of a sudden this becomes 0/6. I cannot kill it right now, and that's really bad. And I'm attacking with all my power, and I have to hit this and hopefully kill her next turn, but she's gonna give blight to another minion. And the Thunderbird will die next turn. As you see, the defense is now 1. It's gonna be 0 next turn. And by the way, the Alliance Command Center is ticking because I have less cards than opponents. And next turn I'll probably draw an additional card, so that's good. Okay, so I have 4 mana here. What I'm gonna do is, instead of playing Yara, because I suspect the Misanthropy next turn, that's why I didn't want to use Yara. Instead, I used Ignition to hit face to the opponent, and the additional unused mana was used for my power ability, Smite. I dealt 1 more damage, so now the opponent is 12, and I have 4 cards on the board, but it's gonna be 3 next turn, and probably 2, we'll see. The next Blight goes to Doper, and another Witch. So the opponent was successfully able to draw both these gold cards, and we cannot put no more than 2 gold cards, so that's nice for my opponent, I guess. And additional, now right now two of my minions have blight, and it's not looking great for me, even though the opponent has 13 life left. Anyway, so at least I can kill the Plague Maiden, but that's not the case again, because the opponent gained life, and now it's 6 again. As you see, because the Mandibility gains life. That's why the enchantment really grows great with this. It's a great interaction there. So what should I do then? Well, I need to kill this. That's why I used instabeast and removed it. This has become too tall, and Jaguar could, be a target for toll removal spells, but again, removing these are essential. I need to do that. So other than that, I also use Triforge Trooper because I want to get rid of this. So the opponent will have to use the blight, at least on this. I made this 1/2 so that it could survive next turn and hit 1 more. And the opponent uses a Toll Punish. Grigori Protocol. This is actually an interesting card. It makes a minion immortal, so they can use it offensively. And then otherwise, I mean, you can play it on your creature or opponent's creature. So depending on the case, if they want to, use it for defensive purpose and kill another minion, they can use it on their creature, gets immortal and then dies. But in this case, the opponent gave immortal to Jaguar, but it's gonna die on the start of my turn. So bye-bye Jaguar. And on top of that, the opponent played a Mazier, which is a defender. The opponent is really doing a great job defending. I have nothing left on the board, but the opponent doesn't have cards left. So he had to use a lot of cards. So not great for him, but and my Alliance Commanding Center reached 0 once again, so I need 3 turns to draw a card. But right now, I have more cards than my opponent, which is really unusual. And Yara will probably draw me cards, hopefully. I'm keeping this alive, just for the fun of it. Who knows, maybe I'll boost it. Okay, so this is probably game over for me, because, 6/6 defender. It's only natural because the opponent reached 6 mana, and by that time I should have been able to finish my opponent, so not looking great. And Yara has blight. I can put instabeast on it and I can't even kill that actually. I can't kill the harvester. So what I'm gonna do is, since she has agile, at least I can draw a card before getting killed next turn. I burn one of the instabeast. And because I have 4/6, what I'm planning to do is use instabeast on daring trapezists and maybe get rid of plague maidens. Anyway, so I need to first see what card I'm drawing, and the options were really great. And I picked Traitor's Murmur. This is one of the best cards in the game. It recently got a nerf. It used to be 6 cost, now it's 7. You take control of an enemy minion that is opposite an occupied lane, and that minion is standing right there. So I'm planning to steal Harvester. However, my opponent is seeing the cards that I'm drawing, since you see that eye. So that's the part of the spell. You show what you are drawing to your opponent. Well, since I have 6 mana, I'm gonna use Instabeast on this and kill the maiden finally. Also, that's important. Another important thing is Plague Maiden says Lurker. So what Lurker means is that if there is a unit next to it, you cannot attack that unit. So you need to attack the other unit first. But since I put this here, there is only one unit to attack. But if I accidentally play Trapezists here, I need to attack Harvester. So I cannot attack a Lurker unit there. So that's an additional information for starters. Okay, so now I have a 6/6 threat here, and I can steal my opponent's card, and all of a sudden my opponent has 5 cards. Because this maze is really working well for him. Now 2 cards, so the opponent was naturally able to block my defender here. But Command Center got a counter increase here, because I had less cards, so that's good, I guess. Now I can steal this and kill the defender there. The opponent will draw a card, but I don't really care. Now there are 2 6 threats, but they don't have overrun, which means that the damage will not be dealt to the opponents. So they can easily block 2 of my defenders. Again, not looking so bright here, so what should I do here? As you see, it's 6/5, and the opponent put a really great card in it, but it's gonna get killed, obviously, with this, because it's enough to kill it. But there is a upside to it. When this harvester is killed, it's replaced by a 0/3 Maze of Yatiku, which the opponent already has 1 copy of it here, and it's gonna draw me some cards at least. Okay, so there's only one option here. I use Ignition to block the defender and then trade these guys. And there is also ability here. This is also a phenomenal defense card, Born Again. It returns to your hand from the Boneyard and in Sundown. So the opponent is going to get this back and will keep putting defenders on my to block these big guys. Well, this is gonna die anyway, and I don't know I didn't know when I was playing it, but as you see, there is another Born Again, and the opponent drew one of the best cards in the game, Sapo. Sapo kills the unit opposite to it. Well, the opponent is at 6, but how am I gonna kill with? What am I gonna kill it with? Well, some help came with the courtesy of Alliance Command Center, so I drew an additional card, and since 5 turn has passed, I received this mantle. I drew another card thanks to Maze, and all of a sudden my hand is full again. So I'm putting as much units as I can, and because I have instabeast at hand, so even with 1 point unit, if there is no blocker, I can kill my opponent because my opponent is at 5. But the leader ability will, heal him for a bit. And as you're paying attention, I really don't care about Sapo. What I'm trying to do is kill my opponent in 2 turns. Actually, I need to kill it in this turn maybe, because well, I am at 17, so this will go twice. So the opponent probably needs 3 turns to kill me. And the opponent used leader ability. Now he is back at 6. And all of a sudden I have 2 instabeasts here. That's really great news. Bad news is the opponent played Meso Libre here and stunned my attacker. So I cannot attack with this. That sucks, obviously. And the bird isn't transformed yet. What I'm doing is unfortunately just removing Born Again, which will come back. And, just hit with it and use the leader ability to deal 1 more damage. Now it's 17, and if I can do something about it, I'll be dead in 2 turns. The opponent uses this spell and neutralizes Vanguard and puts a deadly defender. So no matter what the offense power of this unit, it's gonna die. It's like poison, something like that. So not great. And Plague Maidens for additional blights. So it looks like I'll be dead. But let's not forget about Thunderbird. There is a reason I put Thunderbird here. Because, it dealt 3 damage to the defender. So the maze is gone. And also dealt 2 damage to my opponent. So I only need 4. And look at my top deck here, Wings of Abaddon. I also drew an additional card. Let's take a look at it. I mean, how can I finish my opponent? First things first, I cannot attack this because she has Lurker. And this cannot attack this, again, because she has Lurker. What I can do is, just hit this Meso Libre. But this is not going to make any difference because it's 0 from now on. And what I can do is actually kill this deadly unit. And then, since these 2 lanes are blank, if I put a unit here and attack my opponent, the game will be over, which is actually just like that. Here comes Wings of Abaddon. Actually, I have enough mana to put give a minion 4/4, so I can deal 8 damage actually. And I survive and win the game. This was a pretty long game. And as you see, thanks to the leader ability, I mean, drawing cards for every 3 turns, made me win this really tough competition. And the opponent really played well here. Okay, so let's pick up another game. And yeah, so this opponent was it Mythic rank 10, so he probably is right now in champion rank. So I want to show you a high rank opponent. I'm in second. As you see, my opponent is playing a red-green control deck here. If the opponent has gain life cards, I'm in trouble. Because red has some drain cards. I don't have bird this time, but I'm playing these 2 cards. Again, since this is 0 mana. The opponent plays K9 Handler. It's a 2/2. He knows that it's gonna be killed by Doper, but I mean, yeah, he needs to put defenses to survive. So with 2 mana, what I can do is I can play Daring Trapezists and remove this threat, and keep hitting with Doper, because Doper is kind of more valuable than this Trapezist here. So I want it to survive. There's also instabeast, which I can use on it. And this is gonna hit for 2 because the opposite row is uncontested. But there was also another option, like playing Grid Instructor and boosting the defense of Doper so that it survives with this. So that was another good option. But I prefer to pick the more aggressive line here. But maybe this one was better choice. Well, the opponent removes it with ignition. I only have 1 trooper, and the opponent plays Rated Tombs and fills his hand relatively. But I have lots of cards, which is unusual. I need to empty my hand as soon as possible, which I'm doing right now. I played the Thunderbird, which is a bit later than ideal, and played the Brinebound Believer. I'm trying to, as you see, separate these, and I mean put one of minion on both sides of the lanes and one in the middle. So opponent will have to use a lot of defenders to get rid of those. This is really an important threat. The opponent removes it and this unit survives. That's the important thing. But Brinebound Believer is pretty good. So it's uncontested. It's gonna stay alive for one more turn, hopefully. I used instabeast on this guy this time. And all of a sudden, my opponent is at 11. So there's only 4 turns to the left past. So since this has focus, it's actually hitting for 6, not 5. So that's pretty good. So what will my opponent do? Led Astray will send that minion back into my deck. He could have used this Led Astray here, but the power is 5. So the Led Astray is only sending minions with 4 or less strength. So that's why he couldn't touch it. And if he was able to do it, this is ephemeral card, and it wouldn't have been even sent to back to my deck. It was just gonna get destroyed, erased out of existence. So the opponent just puts a defender here, a 0 cost card, so blocks my attack here. And by the way, I'm drawing an extra card with command center, which is huge. Well, I can kill it, but you know, why waste this damage potential here? What I'll do is, you know, kill the defender with ignition, hit for 6, and then play doper, boost the doper, and then use the sky ability, make it 0-4, and play another one. Okay, so the placement is important here. Magmatar is an important threat here, which deals 3 damage to 3 adjacent units, as you see. I mean, if he puts Magmatar or Magmazor, I don't remember the correct name, the unit that will die is less, so it's not going to do anything to those because the defense are more than 3. If he puts it to 3 here, this one's going to die and this one's going to go uncontested, so he needs to put it here. And I didn't want to put this here. You know, I don't care about the damage because I put them as left as possible. By the way, I mean, if I can't kill my opponent, this card is amazing. It's gonna win the game for my opponent. It will put 7-3-1 Helions on each of the unoccupied lanes. So game over for me. So I need to kill my opponent. I don't know if the opponent has it, but since the opponent is playing red-green, I suspect that. But a good thing about this is they don't have Thunderbolts or Misanthropios, those, you know, mass damage dealers. That's why, I mean, I'm putting all my units on the board without hesitation. I need to kill my opponent before 7-ring ritual. That's the objective here. Well, the opponent put a big defender here, White Tower Warden. I have Vicious Cycle, which will destroy a minion. But in this case, I cannot because the minion has warded. Warded means that cannot be damaged or destroyed outside of combat. And Vicious Circle is destroy a minion, and I cannot even target White Tower Warden here. So I cannot immediately win the game. But I'm gonna win anyway because I have enough damage. What I do is I boost the defense. It becomes 5-6. It's gonna kill it, trade favorably here, and then 2 here. This is gonna transform into 2-2, and I need 2 more damage, and here is my 2 damage. 3 pieces will finish off the opponent. And the opponent is well aware of that, and it says well played. Because even if I don't have rush minion, I'm gonna use my leader, and then the next turn I'm gonna use another leader, and my opponent will die. Okay, so that was it. I hope you liked these videos. For my Gwent viewers, I don't know if they watched it until the end, because they probably didn't play this game and they're unfamiliar with it. But I hope you liked it if you are, I mean, still watching it right now. Because as you see, the combat of this game is phenomenal. It's really exciting. I really enjoy it. It could not be as strategic as Gwent sometimes. I wouldn't say it's more fun, but it's as good as Gwent in my opinion. And for those who play Mythgard already and I mean don't know about this channel at all, thank you for watching. And again, if you like this video, hit the like button. And I could maybe keep posting Mythgard videos along with Gwent. So please let me know if you liked it. You know, put a comment on it and give me feedback. If you want content other than Gwent, let me know. So this was kind of a trial and error for me, and hopefully this is a success. Okay, see you later, and bye bye.